Hello, Ricky the Meadmaker here, Head Brewer for Groennfell Meadery and Havoc Mead, and today we're going to be tasting through all of our core products and a few of our specials. I'm joined here by Valkyrie's Choice, our flagship mead. What makes it our flagship is that it is a straight mead, or a traditional mead, meaning there's only honey in the fermentation. Many of our products have other things going on, ginger and fruit and spices, but this is just honey, water, and yeast to turn it into alcohol. What makes it special is that it's super complex. Despite those few ingredients, we use a very high quality raw wildflower honey, and you can smell those wildflowers on the nose and on the palate. Tastes like honey, but it's bone dry, which is a really neat experience. This is still, after 8 years, our bestseller. This here is Old Wayfarer. We get questions all the time. What is the proper temperature and the proper glass for my mead? And the answer is whatever temperature you enjoy and whatever glass is handy. As I go through my tastings, I will switch from glass to glass to glass based on what is within arm's reach. But I will admit that I like Old Wayfarer out of a snifter because you get 2 drinks out of it that way. And also, it's a very dark honey originally, though it lightens up during the fermentation, with rich brown sugars in it. And it's got an almost bourbon-y characteristic that I think the shape of this glass really helps focus as you're drinking. And it's so easy to drink that having to pour 1 can twice to fill up a glass helps slow you down. In many ways, Nordic Farmhouse was actually our breakthrough beverage. It is a wild fermented cranberry mead. And when we came out with it 5 or 6 years ago, sour beers were just starting to be a thing. There was really no hue and cry amongst the US populace to have a wild fermented mead, but it has a huge fan base. In that time, those last 5 years, sours are everywhere, and we've been able to play with and improve Nordic Farmhouse every single batch. Because it's wild fermented, each batch is a little bit different. A lot of people assume when they see it and smell it that they're gonna get something in the cranberry seltzer arena, and you are wrong. Because of those wild buggies, those wild yeast that come in our raw honey, on the palate, it just explodes. You get the cranberry up front, but then there's like a rich honeycomb flavor behind it, and just so much going on. I know a lot of people drink it as their daily drink. I like to drink Nordic Farmhouse once a week, so that it surprises me every time. Like all parents, I shouldn't have a favorite child, but I do, and it's Hop Swarm. It's not only my favorite mead to drink, it's my favorite mead to brew. Because, and you may not know this, we're an open source company, so all of our recipes are free online for the home brewers or commercial makers if you want to try to mimic what we do. But I love this one because making mead is pretty straightforward. Honey plus water plus yeast. But in the hopping, we were able to really innovate. And we have a huge thing called the Bubba, where we do multiple hop additions in this crazy big tea with a recirculating pump, and I'm not sure it makes all that much of a difference, but we believe it does. So all of that tea then ends up in the mead with dry hop as well. But if you're not an IPA fan, don't worry. The hops are never boiled, so they never get bitter. So instead of having a really strong bitterness to it, it's wildflowers and grass and pine needles. It's all of those aromas of hops without the bitterness behind them. So, as my assistant brewer loves to say, if you love IPAs, try it. If you hate IPAs, definitely try it. I thought it'd be fun to change it up on our tasting of Root of All Evil. Root of All Evil is actually a classic Jamaican ginger beer. It has ginger, lemon, and honey. But due to weird US regulations, we can't legally call it a ginger beer because it has honey in it, which is fine by us. That makes it a fine ginger mead. And it makes an amazing cocktail. Great by itself with that slow ginger burn, but many of our meads make excellent cocktails. And I thought we'd talk about it while we're tasting it. So this is a fine white rum. I will not tell you whose it is, because I don't need to shill for another company, but I will tell you I'm using Reagan's Orange Bitters. If you don't have them in your bar, you need to. I have no connection with this company. They just make a fine, high quality product. The nice thing about mixing with mead is that since the mead brings so much to the party, all those layers of flavor, aroma, the complexity of that wild honey, you can make a really good cocktail, just 3 ingredients. A good base liquor, a little bit of bitters, if you're a bitters person like I am, you can even skip them, and then the mead on top. But the root of all evil is so rich and powerful. You get so much of that ginger on the nose, even above the aroma of that rum, that on the first sip, I will tell you, I would unfortunately, probably unsafely, drink these all night. This is Psychopomp, a Belgian-style sour cherry mead. Belgian style means that we do very high temperature fermentations, and that creates all sorts of cool aromas like caramel and brown sugar and candied apples, and that's just the fermentation and the actual fermentation cherries we use, while there are eaten apples, pie apples, cider apples. Did you know that there are also eating cherries, pie cherries, and fermentation cherries? We didn't know that until we tried to buy some and found out that we could. But this beverage has fans across the spectrum. Wine drinkers, especially sour beer drinkers, funky beer drinkers. It is, despite its brilliant color, which may startle some of your beer-loving friends, truly a mead for everyone. That completes the core 6 products we have, but I also wanted to take a minute to talk about our one-offs, our specials, and our seasonals. The difference between these is negligible and pointless. Let's put it this way. If we brew it every week, it's a core product. If we try to brew it every week, it's a special. If we brew it once, it's a one-off. There you go. Chaos Sizer falls into this really weird space. It was our first product to come out in cans, and when it came out, it didn't see the sales numbers we needed to see to have a product. But after 4 or 5 years, we decided on a lark to re-release it as a special batch, and we sold out in 6 days. 6 days. It took us 3 years to sell out the first batch and 6 days to sell out the second batch. So it's hopefully coming back as a year-rounder, which is why it's included here at this part. It is cider apples, honey, of course, that's what makes it a mead, and vanilla. It is like drinking an apple pie. And you'll notice that this and all of our meads are hazy. That's on purpose. We used to clarify our meads, which was sort of de rigueur when we started our company. But we found that we were losing the flavor, and also there was no reason. Historic meads weren't clarified. You drank them because they tasted good, and it brings something to the party. When you're drinking something that looks like you're drinking a glass of honey, it really changes your experience of it. And I think Chaos Sizer represents a lot of the fun of developing new meads. And it's just incredible. It really does. It smells like an apple pie with only those 3 ingredients: honey, apple, and a little bit of vanilla. The last thing that we're tasting today is, for me, a moment of humility. I did not invent this product. I didn't even have a hand in brewing it. It was my team. My senior brewer, Nate, said, I have a great idea for a mead. And then he laid it on me. Blueberry, coffee, cinnamon, vanilla mead. And I said, you're crazy. No. And the other brewers came to my defense and said, Nate, you're crazy. No. And he goes, trust me. And we did. We let him do it. And it's blowing people's minds. it is probably the best thing to ever come out of one of my tanks, and I had nothing to do with it. The problem is, it's a one-off, so by the time you're watching this video, you're probably never going to get to try it. So the reason I'm telling you about it is not to torture you for any reason. We do one-offs all the time now, and they're always done like that. It's a level of trust around the brew team. We're yet to have a swing and a miss, but it's the fun of getting to be really creative. And a lot of our jobs at the meadery are janitorial. We clean tanks, we clean the floor, we clean the outsides of the tanks, clean our canning line. And it's not often that we get to do something really fun and creative, but we introduced a coffee series and a sour series, so all the brewers get to pitch in and come up with something cool, innovative, and new. And these, for the most part, are one-offs. Every once in a while, something is so popular that we consider putting it into regular rotation. But this is the last thing we're tasting today. I'm not going to torture you anymore by telling you how good it is, but I wanted you to know that's a lot of how we do as a company. And it's because of all of you out there enjoying them, giving us your feedback. You're pretty clear when you didn't love it, and people are also effusive in their praise, and we really appreciate it, both. If you didn't like it, if you thought it was off, we're also here to listen. So, this completes our tasting. Hope you were enjoying along with me at home, and you're able to stand up safely. Cheers.